There's no smoking in this building, Miss Tramell.
What are you gonna do? Charge me with smoking?
Quote, "The spider's web. She finds an innocuous corner in which to spin her web. The longer the web takes, the more fabulous its construction. She has no need to chase. She sits quietly, her patience a consummate force. She waits for her prey to come to her on their own, and then she ensnares them, injects them with venom, rendering them unable to escape. Spiders, so needed, and yet so misunderstood." Quote, "She looked like a vixen, and that's what she was. She had all the instincts of a female fox. She was the proverbial predatory female. She had what she wanted now, and she was content. There was just the getting completely away with it that counted." All right, so we are going to be embarking on a character analysis of Catherine Tramell, the main antagonist in the movie Basic Instinct, a 1992 neo-noir psychosexual thriller starring Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone. We will also touch on some elements of the 2006 sequel Risk Addiction, although it's not liked as much. Before we get into the analysis, though, I want to give a spoiler alert here. If you haven't seen the films, you may want to watch them first and then come back. Okay, so we will now talk about the first film, the original film, Basic Instinct from 1992. In the film, Catherine Tramell is a novelist with a psychology degree who becomes the main suspect in the murder of ex-rocker Johnny Boz, whom she was dating at the time. Johnny has been brutally murdered in what appears to be a ritual sex act. He was stabbed with an ice pick. Catherine goes on to antagonize the lead detective in the case, Nick Curran, during an interrogation. She behaves in a provocative manner during the interrogation, crossing and uncrossing her legs while making glib comments about sex. She seems to know a lot of information about Nick, and she asks him direct questions like, "You ever fuck on cocaine, Nick?" hinting she knows about his substance use issue. Nick becomes increasingly obsessed with her as he is unhinged and on the edge. Later, the two embark on a passionate and torrid affair. The affair becomes more dangerous as the investigation unravels and more people end up dead. The ending is slightly ambiguous. And as far as the detective there, Nick Curran, he himself probably has a personality disorder. He seems to have elevated narcissism. It's like he kind of likes to be provocative too. You know, he's brash, he's reckless, he is self-centered, he's kind of arrogant, and he is so clearly being fucked with by this woman. But he's like letting it happen, which is kind of amazing, you know. Moving on to Basic Instinct 2, Risk Addiction, from 2006, set in London. The film opens with Catherine Tramell speeding in her car with her boyfriend in the passenger seat. He's clearly intoxicated on something, and she begins masturbating herself with his hand. She increases her speed as she gets closer to climax. At the point of orgasm, the car veers off the road and crashes into the lake. She tries to save him, but in her own words, her life was more important. She is interrogated by Detective Washburn from Scotland Yard. He claims a sort of muscle relaxant drug was found in her car with syringes, and it was also found in her boyfriend's system. Tramell begins therapy sessions with Dr. Michael Glass, who had conducted a court-ordered psychiatric exam and gave testimony in her case. Tramell begins to play mind games with Dr. Glass, who becomes increasingly frustrated but intrigued by this woman. Dr. Glass eventually gets to the point where he can no longer tell right from wrong, and in the end is utterly and completely annihilated. Okay, so moving on to character analysis. Let's begin with her last name, Tramell. This seems to be an exercise in psycholinguistics, since trammel means to step on something. I guess the subtlety there is that she's kind of stepping on everybody else on her way to the top, I suppose. Tramell is diagnosed by Dr. Michael Glass as possessing a quote-unquote risk addiction. He explains, quote, "Inside, I believe she vacillates between a feeling of godlike omnipotence and a sense that she simply does not exist, which of course is intolerable. I believe Miss Tramell's behavior is driven by what we might call a risk addiction, a compulsive need to prove to herself that she can take risks and survive dangers that other people cannot, especially the subsequent encounters with police, the powers that be. The greater the risk, the greater the proof of her omnipotence. All addiction is progressive. The addict will always need to take greater and greater risks. I suspect the only limit for her would be her own death," unquote. That is what Dr. Glass says about her in his assessment. Glass goes on to describe Tramell as quote-unquote narcissistic and a pathological liar. Various characters also throughout the second movie describe her as a psychopath with a narcissistic personality disorder.
Well, I would say extremely intelligent, gifted, accomplished. Yet inside, I believe, she vacillates between a feeling of godlike omnipotence and a sense that she simply doesn't exist, which of course is intolerable.
Do you consider Miss Tramell to be mentally impaired?
Not by legal definition, no, not at all.
If released, is she likely to commit a violent crime?
I believe Miss Tramell's behavior is driven by what we might call a risk addiction, a compulsive need to prove to herself that she can take risks and survive dangers that other people can't, especially the subsequent encounters with the police or the powers that be.
Why would a person do that?
Well, the greater the risk, the greater the proof of her omnipotence.
Catherine appears to have an antisocial personality disorder. She displays narcissism. She is cold, calculating, highly intelligent. She is playing a game. Quote, "I have a degree in psychology. It goes with the turf. Games are fun." Unquote. Catherine Tramell, Basic Instinct. She seems to display dark triad traits, narcissism. She does show grandiosity, pride, egotism, and a lack of empathy, Machiavellianism. She's a master manipulator. She shows indifference to morality, emotional coldness, and has a focus on self-interest. Psychopathy. She shows continuous antisocial behavior, impulsivity, but only to a degree, selfishness, sadism, thrill-seeking, callous and unemotional traits, as well as showing no remorse for her actions. Catherine uses her sexuality to manipulate others. The times when she appears weak or vulnerable are actually the times she is least herself. She shows people exactly what she wants them to see and when. She will slip in a comment in casual conversation, knowing that Detective Curran will investigate and check her story out to manipulate him. She uses excessive charm, openness, and honesty to trick everyone around her. So she'll use the truth, she'll say something true, but what she's doing it for a manipulative purpose, and she'll omit certain things as well. One of the things that she does, like throughout the first movie, she calls Nick Shooter because of an issue that he had in the past, and she calls him Nicky, which is what his wife, who committed suicide, used to call him, displaying intimate knowledge. She is so deliberate in how she tries to get under his skin, encouraging him to smoke and drink, knowing he's like 3 months sober. She is mysterious and seductive, but she is a cold-blooded serial killer. She is charismatic, magnetic, beautiful, and witty. Catherine loves playing cat and mouse. She is able to charm, seduce, and manipulate women as well as men. She is successful and wealthy. She is addicted to killing, but also to the thrill of getting away with it. She also may be good at manipulating people into killing for her. She's a pathological liar, and she loves to toy with people before destroying them. She is the perfect predator, and everything about her is a camouflage designed to distract people, especially men, from seeing her for what she really is. From her platinum blonde hair to her Hollywood starlet socialite style, she shows that she is sexually confident. This can be alluring to both men but also women. Sexuality radiates from her in waves, and the men in the movie are overcome by it. Her status and affluence, along with her wealth, afford her a lifestyle that allows her to move as she pleases. She has the financial freedom to do so. She has the ability to hire a team of lawyers at the drop of a hat. She seems to know a lot of people. She's so well connected that she knows people on the police force, and she hints this to Detective Curran. She gives off an air of danger and risk, which can be captivating. People can sense that there's something different about her. She appears calm when others would not. She is composed, self-assured, and sensual. Catherine always seems to have everything planned out meticulously, and she always seems to be the one in control, moving everyone else around like pawns on a chessboard. She has a disdain for law enforcement, and she is always seemingly one step ahead of them. There are times when she is able to entice both men and women to quote-unquote protect and rescue her. Catherine is a successful serial killer, and she gets away with it numerous times. When looking at female psychopaths, we note glibness and superficial charm, devaluation, sexualized behavior, and grandiose sense of self-worth. Female psychopaths, more than male psychopaths, tend to care very much about how they're perceived by others. They have a tendency to self-dramatize. They're more passive-aggressive and indirect than their male counterparts. They have a pathological self-focus on maintaining a quote-unquote image. They may be plagued by chronic self-criticism about how they look, which can be consuming to them. They maintain victim stances to avoid responsibility. They are cunning and manipulative. They use deception to cheat, bilk, defraud, or manipulate others. They use scams and schemes motivated by a desire for personal gain, carried off in a cool and brazen manner. They present a shallow affect, like they have deep emotions, but it is short-lived and not deeply felt. It's pseudo-emotionality. They're unable to experience actually a wide range and depth of emotion. Their emotions may be dramatic, shallow, and quickly changing. They will engage in a narcissistic mirroring, so they'll start mirroring the people around them in an effort to make that person feel more comfortable. They can assess someone very quickly and very accurately, and then give them what they think they want as a means to to an end. They engage in promiscuous sexual behavior that is casual, impersonal, and indiscriminate. We see almost all these behaviors present in Catherine Tramell. While we have no way of knowing, there were probably early childhood behavioral problems as well. Thus, we can conclude that Catherine is a female psychopath and is incredibly dangerous. That's the end of this video, this analysis of Catherine Tramell. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and if there is anything that you want me to cover, any other person or character, let me know and I will analyze them. I hope everybody has a good day. Also, I'm sure that this video will be demonetized, so if you want to contribute to my work, I have my donation links in the video description. All right, everybody, have a good day. Wee!